Welcome to Boomtown. Central Ohio is growing at a rapid pace, and that comes with its ups and downs. A new benchmarking report released just this week is providing new insight as to where Central Ohio stands in comparison to similar cities. From population to affordable housing and poverty, it's all in there. So here's what we uncovered this week in Boomtown. Hello there, and thank you for joining me for This Week in Boomtown. I'm Angela Ann. This week, we're doing something a little different. We're focusing on how Columbus compares to other cities. A new report called Benchmarking Central Ohio by the Columbus Foundation compared Columbus to 22 similar cities in areas like housing, health, and transportation. I'm joined today by three guests. Matt Martin, Director of Community Research with the Foundation, which conducted this report. Also, Kenny McDonald, President and CEO of One Columbus. And Autumn Glover, Senior Vice President with And Health. I want to thank you all for being here with us today. And as we talk about this report, I'm really excited because it really kind of gives us a gauge of where we are and how we can move forward.
Absolutely.
Very exciting. So before we dive into the findings, I want you to take a look at this map if you can. This report compared us to all these other big booming cities across the country. Last summer, I visited Austin. We were also ranked against other Midwestern cities. We're talking Cincinnati, Cleveland, Chicago. And then if you go farther out, you can see we compared this study to San Jose, Sacramento, Jacksonville on the other coast. So when you three took part in the release of the benchmarking report earlier this month, let's really talk about it. Matt, I'm going to start with you. How did you choose those cities to benchmark Columbus against?
Yeah, well, this is the 8th edition of this report that the Foundation has sponsored over the years since 2007. And at the beginning of the series, we were focused more on Midwestern cities and regions, those that we might more readily think of as peers. But as the region has continued to grow over the years, over the last couple decades, we've had to start looking at other regions around other parts of the country, regions that are growing at similar or even faster paces than Central Ohio, regions that are doing things that we could learn from in our own growth.
And as you looked at that, was there one city that stood out to you that said, that's what we want to be, or we want to be better than that city?
There's really no region in America that gets it all right, for better or worse. But they're all facing challenges that either we've been facing or we see on the horizon as we continue our growth. And so there's a lot of different regions that we can learn a lot of different things from.
And Kenny, I'm sure you're saying we want those cities to say they want to be like us, right?
Absolutely.
As the economic driver for the city of Columbus. Talk about what stood out or maybe surprised you the most in this report.
It's always, first of all, I applaud the Columbus Foundation for doing the hard work of behind the scenes so that we actually have objective, fact-based data so that we can understand what, how good it is in some cases, and also where we have challenges. And I appreciate we've been following all the feedback from the community too. I'm so proud that we have citizens who not only care about growth, but they care about how we're growing and how we're gonna do this better and better in the future. We have a great list of cities that we're compared to. We think we're one of them, and we say that we compete with some of the world's best places in economic development, but we're also competing for where people are going to choose to build their future. Where are they going to live? Where are they going to go get their education? Where do they want to build a family? And understanding aspects that aren't necessarily all economic, but are also cultural and stuff like that about how we're growing is helping us become a better place and adjust our tactics so that we're constantly improving and moving towards the future.
Was there something in this report that made you say, gosh, I've been saying this all along, now here's the proof?
It services the challenges that we know we have. We have to keep up with infrastructure. Certainly housing is one of those challenges. I think that the disparities that are surfaced in this report remind us of the hard work that we have to do in healthcare and in the work in poverty. And quite frankly, I'll come back to housing one more time. in housing security and things like that to reduce those disparities so that everybody in our region has an opportunity to take advantage of the incredible opportunities that are being created here every day.
We're going to talk about housing in just a moment, but Autumn, I want to get your take on this benchmarking report. You know, when Kenny was talking about this goes beyond economics. We look at health, we look at poverty. You were nodding your head emphatically, saying yes. What stood out to you the most?
I mean, there are a lot of things that really stood out to me. I've spent my career thinking about how we engage the community and discovering what it cares about, discovering what the future could be of our region. But we've also kind of been in a place where we've celebrated what we view the story of Columbus to be, a comfortable place to raise a family, an affordable place to raise a family. What really stood out to me, and it's something that I've noticed over the years, is that Columbus is a great place to raise a family. This region is amazing, and people are coming here for that perspective. But there's a group of people, there's that middle, that are missing in some of that prosperity. And I think the report really elevated the missing middle in housing and workforce and many other dimensions of the report. And so making sure that we're taking care of all people, I think really was something that I reflected on a lot in reviewing the data.
And we always hear that missing middle is actually a bigger piece of the pie that continues to grow. When we talk about growth here, we keep hearing this phrase, Central Ohio will add 1 million more people in the next 25 years. This report shows that we are growing, but maybe not as quickly as perhaps some of the other cities in the Midwest. And I think we have another graphic here that shows Indianapolis was the fastest growing city in the Midwest, just a few hours west of us here, and they grew by 4%. I believe Kansas City kind of right behind them, and then we came in third, tied with another city. So if we talk about this, and I'm just going to toss this out to the group, why are we lagging behind those other cities when it comes to this growth that we're seeing?
I wouldn't say that we're lagging. Actually, the Midwest is a growing region, and the cities in the Midwest that you talked about, Kansas City, Indianapolis, the renaissance of Detroit as an example, there's some really great things going on in our part of the world. We're very much part of that. In fact, for the last decade, we've set the pace. And the fact that we'll slip in the rankings and growth one year, over time, I think we're going to be one of those top places. We're creating opportunities, we're attracting people and talent and industries that we never had before. And so I think it's a point of pride that the Midwest is growing overall, and it isn't just one place. We got to make sure that we're one of them. But we admire our partners in the Midwest, and we know that we're competing globally for people, talent, and industries.
So basically, tying for third in that growth is not a bad thing,
Not at
right?
all.
We maybe don't want to be number one, but what did you find, Matt, as you guys researched these other booming cities, where their growth maybe was not as high as ours? What were they saying that they needed to do more to be better?
Yeah, well, Central Ohio finds itself in an interesting place because while we're not growing as much as maybe some metros in the south or out west, we're growing at a much faster rate than the rest of Ohio. The rest of Ohio, in fact, is losing or is on track to lose population in the years ahead. And so it's an interesting time to think of Central Ohio as a place of opportunity where people can come to for jobs, education, and healthcare. And we, at about 3% as a region, are growing at a rate that you might say is a little bit of Goldilocks. It's not too hot, not too cold. Like our rate of growth gives us a chance to try to stay on pace with housing, with infrastructure, with our power grid. There's so many of these things that we need to keep up with, and yet it's not at such a high rate that we're falling further and further behind.
I'm glad you brought up the population growth of the state versus this region, because it is quite different. And I think we have some numbers from the Department of Development that showed that our state will decline by 5.7% of population between now and the year 2050. So we're talking 675,000 people leaving Ohio. They probably are not coming to Central Ohio, they're going elsewhere. So how do we maybe balance that disparity? Do we need to balance that disparity?
I would say leadership matters. We have not only have we been the growth engine of Ohio, but I'd say we have the responsibility to make sure that we're growing and growing really in an intentional way and setting the pace for Ohio. The better we do, the higher the ambitions for the entire state become. We got a lot of great partners across this state that are working really hard to make that happen. Jobs Ohio and other people are working across all 88 counties to make sure that everybody's has an opportunity to create opportunity.
True.
And we think growth is a blessing here in Central Ohio. We often say the challenges that we have are problematic and they require a lot of hard work, but they're much better than the conversations that we would be having if we weren't growing in population
True.
and bringing in new revenue and new, by the way, new cultural and new ideas to our market. So we're going to continue to press. We are helping and we're rooting for the rest of Ohio and the Midwest to continue to grow because we think that'll only bring bigger and better things to Central Ohio. Something
the department also studied, though, was they looked at the mortality rates and fertility rates. And I know this is kind of more in your field, Autumn, when we look at the fertility rates going down, mortality rate is going up, very slow migration patterns. So in your field, then, what can we do to better improve those types of rates when it comes to our health as this region grows?
Yeah, it's a very important measure. I think there are multiple public health measures that we have seen continuous decline. It's not for lack of effort, and so I think we need to continue to measure our progress. And there are many stakeholders that should be included. Obviously, the residents that are most impacted. I think we need to zoom in on who is increasing in infant mortality and other chronic conditions that continue to grow in their prevalence. We got to get specific in our strategies from my perspective. The other thing is that we often think about healthcare as only being our hospital systems. And it's not just Ohio State, Ohio Health Children's, and Mount Carmel. There's a network of community health centers that are located in the communities that are most impacted that we need to include in these conversations and in those investments as well.
And in fact, I know that when it comes to those hospital systems, we're seeing so many hospitals now branching out, having expansions, another unit here in this region. And so they're clearly going where that growth is. Is that enough to bridge that disparity gap?
I think hospitals have unique opportunities and things that they can do better than other parts of our healthcare ecosystem. And so is it enough to address those challenges? Maybe. I hope so. I think we really are a wonderful community in that we have all of these assets. But I think that's where we need to elevate the people that are the organizations, community health centers, other nonprofits and human service organizations that are community based to play a role too. So it's not the work of only the hospitals to help address these challenges. We really need to create the opportunity to make other people successful.
Really is a team effort, and that speaks to the affordable housing crisis that we're seeing here in Central Ohio. You talked about it, Kenny, and I know that Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther announced just a few weeks ago in his new budget proposal that he has a fix on affordable housing crisis, a lot of money going towards that. Let's listen in first to what he said.
We've allocated $140 million to build income-qualified affordable housing. To date, we've supported 39 affordable housing developments, which have created 3,000 affordable rental units.
So on paper, it sounds great. That is just in the Columbus. The regional leaders also came together saying that they created this coalition with a promise to build 200,000 new homes in the next 5 years. So given what Mayor Ginther said and this promise, is that realistic in this time frame?
So first of all, I'll applaud the city of Columbus, Mayor Ginther, for their leadership. Franklin County makes up about half the growth in our region when you look at it. If 100,000 people move here every 4 to 5 years, about half of those are landing inside of Franklin County or the city of Columbus, and about half are around our region. The zoning changes, first zoning changes in 70 years in the city of Columbus. The passage of Link Us and the transit corridors are going to be developed are a powerful way to develop housing and more dense housing along transportation corridors that will make housing more affordable and also maybe reduce the need for somebody to have a car payment, making our region not only meeting a housing challenge and making us more affordable overall. And every day we're actually with our regional partners across the 11 counties talking about housing as an economic development tool. If you want to recruit industry, have a new manufacturing facilities, clients are going to ask where are those workers going to come from and how far away are they from me? And do you have a way for them to get there? And do you have the different types of housing for all parts of my workforce? And so we continue to see our communities change. improve their tools, invent new tools, understand the land use planning even better. I really think that we're at the beginning of us building totally new communities across our region. And most importantly, that we're maintaining the character of Central Ohio and the great communities, the suburbs, the exurbs, the rural communities that surround the city of Columbus, now the 14th largest city in the country.
That is something that we heard is keeping that small town charm while you have this huge growth coming around you. I'm curious, Matt, in the report and as you study the other cities, how were they with their affordable housing situation compared to Columbus, and could they recover in this time frame that the city is projecting?
Yeah, what you see in a lot of other regions is a higher rate of residential construction. But I think we should certainly be encouraged by the increase that's noted in our own construction over the last few years. When you look at the levels of density, we're not one of the most densely developed regions in the country. That's an area where I think we have a big opportunity to grow. And things like Link Us and transit investments in trails and sidewalks, those are the kinds of supportive infrastructure that we're going to need in order to not just become more dense, but do it in a livable way that maintains the character of the communities that we have and makes them easy to navigate and get around.
Changing the zoning code, to which Kenny mentioned, is something we also saw in Austin. Once they changed their zoning code, it allowed them to build that density. It allowed them to build up, right? The verticalness of building up, increasing that housing. Is there a point that it's too much? Are we building up too many areas? Nodding your head, Kenny?
Well, I will maybe build on something that Autumn said.
Yeah.
We got to be mindful that as we grow out, that we also grow up. And we change. That means both physically, and then we mature in the way that we're actually approaching this. And that, yes, we're going to have healthcare facilities and other small businesses that follow rooftops actually continue to go where the growth is. But we also, if we're going to be the most prosperous region in the country, we have to actually do the things to infill and make sure that we don't have food deserts and pharmacy deserts and things like that, so that people can get the care and they can continue to have the fabric of their community as we actually increase and do things differently here. And that's going to require our social sector, our nonprofit partners, our governments, as well as our private sector to operate the Columbus way.
Yes.
And that is to lock arms and to make sure that we're keeping the bigger idea in front of us at all times, so that we're progressing towards being the most prosperous and not just pursuing growth for growth's sake.
Yeah. Well said, Kenny. You bring up a point, right, where we have to take care of our own. These food deserts that we are seeing being created, we see restaurants and grocery stores closing left and right in some areas because they have no foot traffic. But then that makes it more difficult for people who are living there to find that access. And Autumn, I know you work a lot with people in that area as well. When we look at perhaps, say, the poverty rates that we're dealing with here in Columbus, it's also quite high compared to our other peer cities, San Antonio for poverty. As someone who's lived in Columbus for 24 years, that's almost embarrassing for me to actually say out loud, because I don't want that to be recognized with my city. So can you talk a little bit about that and what Kenny talked about? How can we make this all inclusive for families?
Yeah, I love that. And I had the same reaction, Angela. I think it is truly unjust that we are growing in a way that people are being left behind, but I don't think it's too late. I think we absolutely can recover this. The first thing is acknowledging it, right? So thank you to the foundation for making sure we consistently have this data available. The other thing, too, is acknowledging that these are people that we see every day. It's the person that made my coffee this morning at the coffee shop. It's maybe a teacher in my school. These are our neighbors. One of the reasons why people have that increased poverty is the compounding the compounding impact of the cost of living, right? So we're talking about, what does it cost to rent? So when we're talking about housing, we need to think about both rental and ownership opportunities, and how do we allow people to share in in maintaining the fabric of those neighborhoods. We're also thinking about childcare and the cost of going to work, and what does that look like for most families. And so there are many elements that I think we need to consider how we give people an opportunity to share in that prosperity. I've seen it work quite well when we focus in a place-based way. So we're thinking about a neighborhood at a time, being very specific. We've seen investments over time in communities like Wineland Park, the Near East Side, even work in Franklinton, replicating things that work, and not being relentless, or continuing, to be relentless and thinking about how we help those communities thrive.
And I want to highlight that part of the benchmarking report that you guys did where you looked at the poverty rates. My colleague 10 TV's Tara Jabor looked at some of those numbers. Just take a listen to how she wraps this all up.
The Columbus Foundation came out with a benchmarking report, and in that report, it talks about how the health outcomes here in Columbus are some of the poorest among 20 other cities. Now, it also says that the poverty rate here in Central Ohio has gone down recently, but it says compared to cities of similar size, the poverty rate is still high. Now, we spent the day speaking with people about solutions to some of these problems, and they tell us that solutions are things like better transportation and affordable housing and more access to food. Now, the leaders in public health that I spoke to told me that they think Columbus still has a lot of work to do, but they say progress is being made. Reporting in Columbus, Tara Jabor, 10 TV News.
Again, that was Tara Jabor reporting. I'm curious, Matt, while you looked at these other cities, we just heard Kenny and Autumn say solutions are needed. Did you see any solutions in there that struck you as, I think this could work in Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, we are, I think gradually implementing a lot of those kinds of things. The zoning change that Kenny talked about, we're not the first city to think about that. Cities like Minneapolis have done similar things. You mentioned Austin. The opportunities that creates for the kind of density, the kind of mixed use that we need, those are really important steps. Transit obviously is a step forward for the region, but we wouldn't be the first taking those kinds of big steps either. I think the opportunities that we have with some of our green space, our natural space, are also really great opportunities. We've seen in places like Cleveland and Atlanta how you can take your waterways and your greenways and turn them into a much greater asset for obviously recreation, but things that can contribute to the overall wellness and public health of the population.
We have a beautiful Scioto Mile that I love it when I see festivals and things like that that bring people into the downtown. You can enjoy the beautiful scenery. Let's talk transportation. I love my car. Like everyone loves their car, but we have to figure out a better way to transport so many people who want to go someplace at the same time. I do want to mention the state first celebrated just a few weeks ago the expansion of State Route 161. I don't know if you guys drive that, but I drive that almost every day. I'm so glad to see the extra lanes that they added in Northeast Columbus, and we know that much of the drive for 161 was because of Intel and all the data centers that we're seeing being built out that way. And this is such a huge corridor that I think speaks to why we needed the extra lanes there. There's a phrase, though, that some say planned obsolescence. I'm sure you guys have heard that in your industries. Talk about that. Are these road improvements being done fast enough to catch up with the growth that's already here?
No one solution is going to solve all these issues. So
Why not, Kenny? Why not? I need it to.
we all know this personally, that no, there's not a silver bullet to any one topic. And transit, where we're building our housing, how we're building our housing, where we're building water and wastewater lines and things like that, it dictates part of that. Having bus rapid transit has been a long time coming. We've been the largest city in the country without a rapid mass transit solution for way too long. The passage of LinkUs gives an opportunity to solve that problem. And not only will it solve it within the LinkUs territory, but I think it's prompting some of our suburban communities to think about micro-transit solutions to transit their employees from new employment centers, which are largely industrial, to their health care, their education, their child care, as Autumn said, so that people maybe don't have to have that car payment or can have one car and not two. to move their family around. These are all critical components. All of them will have to work in concert. And as good as we've been at public-private partnership and forward thinking, what got us here will not get us through the next 10 years. We're going to have to be more curious, more innovative, and more bold in our solutions if we're going to overcome some of the obstacles we have and to actually meet the moment so that our people can actually maybe take advantage of these opportunities that are being created.
It's clear that we are meeting the moment with the Lincus levy.
Right.
It's clear the voters said we need something. I want you guys to listen to what the Austin Vice Mayor told me back in August, because they now have a bus rapid transit system, much like what we have or coming to us with Lincus. But she also talked about light rail. Can we listen to what the Vice Mayor Leslie Poole said here?
It would have been nice back in 2000 to have passed light rail, because it would have been built cheaper and it would already be on the ground and we would have 20 years of maturity for that system. But that isn't what happened.
And so when I talked to the vice, you guys are smirking a little bit. I can feel it because I felt that too. You know, I was here the first round when light rail went up to voters for a vote. I used to live in Salt Lake City when voters first turned it down, and then they approved it, and it was the most beautiful thing that people loved. What are we missing here then?
I think the love for cars is real, and it's people can't imagine a day where they might use it. I think the risk, though, is not meeting the moment, as Kenny said. And even as we think about attracting talent into our region, people are coming from Chicago to the Columbus region, from New York City and DC, and they don't want a car payment. They're used to commuting for work, and so we're missing the opportunity to bring people here that are attracted to that. And then I think the people who live here, they'll adjust. I hate to say it, but sometimes change is hard, but people will adjust, and there are many people who are walking and using our bus system today, but I think we all should take the challenge to try to catch the bus. I often share with people that my entire life is up and down Broad Street, and I could catch the bus, and so I think we also need to be co-authors in what the right solution is and not think about transit as something that's for a certain class of people. If we shift our mindset there, I think we'll start to latch on to solutions like this.
I love that. I love that. Do you feel, though, that we might be missing the boat when it comes to saying, meet the moment, we've got Lincus, but can we do light rail at the same time? Because we don't want to be in Austin's position 20 years from now and have a new benchmarking report that said shoulda, coulda.
Yeah, we can't miss the bus, Matt.
We can't miss the bus. That's right. Well, I think it's about having options and giving ourselves options as a region. You know, if you only have one way to go somewhere, and for whatever reason that breaks down or has a pause, or if you have vehicle trouble, to have options to be able to walk to work if you can, to be able to take transit. And I don't think that, even investments in bus rapid transit, that doesn't negate any future possibilities of other modes of transit that we could bring in. But it's a smart one right now that's going to absolutely increase our capacity and make it more useful across the whole region.
We don't want to be fighting the last war. The where people work is different than it was 5 years ago. Dramatically different than it was 5 years ago. By 2030, that'll look even more different. The days of going in, parking car in a parking lot, working for 9 hours, and then coming back, getting in your car, driving home, are diminishing very, very rapidly. We're seeing new types of employment centers show up, and they're not just that third place at the coffee shop or out of your home. They're in unique mixed-use developments. Our region must double down on placemaking to make sure that we're creating areas where you can live, work, play, be entertained, and also get your health care and child care within walking distance. The next generations are asking for this, and so what made a great city 10 years ago is not going to make a city in the next decade.
All right, friends, one final question here for today, and I'm going to open this up to the whole entire group. Now that we have all seen the results of this benchmarking report, what is the most critical action that you think we need to take to make Central Ohio better as we boom?
Most critical action.
I'll let you think about that. We'll go to
Yeah,
Matt.
let me think about it.
I mean, the nature of this report and how comprehensive a data set it is, I mean, it's a reflection of, our donors' various interests in community well-being, from arts to zoos and everything in between. It speaks to there being no one thing that's going to strengthen and improve the community. We think that it's a lot of different things. And it's reflected in the report: public health, transportation, all these things we've been talking about. I think avoiding thinking that there's one thing that we need to fix in order to make this an easier place to live is probably the mentality to take from this.
That's a good point. Autumn?
I think one of the most critical things for us to think about is really acknowledging the breadth of our region and the different experiences, from a more rural to urban to suburban area. And so, as Matt mentioned, it's a lot of different dimensions that we need to be thinking about. But I think the most important thing for us to do is to think about it collectively across our region and really strengthen collaborations in Franklin County and other contiguous areas.
I'll build on Autumn's comments. I do think that our solutions are largely going to be regional or metropolitan as we grow up and grow bigger and our region gets more complex. But my answer to your question would be that everybody has a role to play, and that certainly leaders at the government level, our largest employers, small business leaders, our nonprofit leaders have an elevated role. But when you read the report, I'd invite every citizen to take action and get involved. And that could be through your local church and what they do. It could be through a local nonprofit. You could take action on the thing that you're the most passionate about solving. That could be a healthcare disparity, a transit disparity. It could be in using your voice to just bring concerns to the table, but more importantly, bring solutions to the table. And they won't solve it. We have an opportunity to actually take action. That's the differentiator between our region and others. That this won't come, it won't be centralized planning coming down. It will actually be everybody providing solutions so that we can move forward and invent the future, not try to chase someone else.
Very wise words.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because I think the significance of the regional geography is really important. This report is at the MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area Geography, and key to that is that if there's anything in this report that surprises you or takes you, catches you off guard, that is indicative of maybe not something that you see in your corner of the region, but is a reality for many of your neighbors across the rest of the region. Right. And because we are linked through the workforce, through the economy, through transportation, it behooves us all to actually take that up and invest in the ways that we can.
There's no longer a NIMBY attitude. It's in everyone's backyard at this point.
Yes, this is all of our work.
Thank you all so much for joining
you.
us today. Matt, Kenny, Autumn, wonderful discussion. We really appreciate it. I think the bottom line is we have to work lockstep together to make this work. If you want to see more of our Boomtown coverage, we do have our 10 TV Plus original Welcome to Boomtown. You'll see how our stories really seek solutions for everyone. I'm Angela Ann. Thanks so much for watching This Week in Boomtown.